Hello, welcome back to the speedrunning tutorial. In this video, we'll talk about Ashina Castle and Genichiro for all categories. This includes backside and frontside dojo skips, as well as Airswim and castle swap. You can use the chapters to jump straight to the part concerning your run, but I will drop a few information all along the video. Let's start with glitchless in the path to backside dojo skip. Take this series of Grapple. A better alternative will be shown when heading to frontside. Here, take any of the two available grapples and then the left one. You are quite likely to get hit here. Don't try to dodge the Shuriken, you'd only waste time. In time of need, you may take the backside idol for safety. We're now at the window. To get this jump easily, I advise you to always go for a delayed jump. Start by getting to your max speed by blocking yourself with the window and change direction before jumping. The wall jump can be a bit tricky, be mindful of the pillar's texture. With training, you can even get straight to hanging on the roof. Then go directly to Geni. Now for frontside. You can learn that once you get comfortable with your runs, as even a third attempt will still save you time. Here is a faster method for grapples. Once here, take the grapple. I'm not going to detail frontside in depth, as Penak's video in the description is already perfectly detailed. Control and keyboard setups also differ slightly, so I'll focus on the concept. All you need to know is that the height at which you start has little importance, and that you have to jump on an invisible extension of the roof that your hitbox touches. I advise you to buffer the kick immediately to make your setup consistent. A common mistake is the vertical jump, meaning you change your direction or camera too early. If you don't get the wall jump, you were too close to the edge. You can correct it either by starting from further out or slightly turning your camera to not go as far. You can also do this jump without setup for faster execution. Finally, there exists a version of the skip only possible at the top of the slope, where you grapple immediately after a vertical. It is not faster and I couldn't find any consistency in it. It also seems very difficult to controller, as you need to stay very straight on the ledge. For restricted players, you'll come here after Monk with Airswim. This Airswim saves you approximately 2 seconds over frontside, so if you're coming from a frontside category, you can keep using it for a while. If you're starting out and only wish to learn a single Airswim entry, you can use the same one as Emma, but this will cost you 4 to 5 seconds. Start by getting on this building and do not look at the enemy to avoid this Shuriken move. Once you get down, run off the platform and do a wall jump to the right. Dive and immediately head back up, on the building's right side, because the left one has a hitbox. Be careful of not going too far out the window to avoid being seen and getting a Shuriken during your swim. Once you get to the top of the castle, the cutscene will get you out of it. Finally, if you are in a category with prosthetic tools such as no airswim or all memories unrestricted, you may want to try castle swap, which is slightly faster than airswimming, but rather difficult. A video dedicated to grapple swap is planned, so here I'll simply mention that the coordinates to grapple from are the default one from a quit out or warp, and showing you the grapple you're trying to target with a failed attempt. For this setup, you've seen that the fastest is to hang on the roof after a wall jump. It is worth noting that to be able to grapple, you have to be hanging fairly far, but not quite at the end of the roof. My cue is to be slightly after the building's end. Then, to buffer grapple without seeing it, aim your camera at the wall and backflip to the right. Then turn your camera and do the swap. After the swap, you'll be heading to frontside. If you wish to try double castle swap, you have to save a new position during the swap. Try to save it as early as possible and avoid seeing any further grapples. At the spot, avoid dashing to not get hit and do the swap. On this clip, I make 2 mistakes. First, you can see that my saved position is too late, but also that I forget to even attempt the final grapple. For Genichiro, I'll start by explaining the setup that blocks him in the door for phases 1 and 2. Starting with the categories that don't use any item, such as short glitches. Run immediately to this raised tatami and do a first hit there, then a second inside the door. Then a simple jump and a vertical wall jump and fall to his right. If you do your first hit too late, you'll likely get hit by an arrow to the back. Adjust the timing if necessary. For categories using Confetti, you can use the same spot and keep walking, then lock him in the same way. In both scenarios, you can optimize the setup by jumping only once, often costing you one hit of life. Moving on to the Echo setup I personally use in all memories unrestricted. You can take it at the same spot, but jump immediately to the wall to avoid the hit as the animation locks you in place. Moving on to the different dead angle methods. Let's start with 4th hit. To perform it, you'll position yourself at more than a 90 degrees angle from Geni and keep a forward directional input. You'll stop your combo after the 4th hit and wait until the start of the running animation to start it again. Don't wait too long, or you'll have time to attack. Let's get talking about 1 hit, a bit of a weird intermediate method in terms of speed. To use it, you have to reset your combo by blocking after every hit, by alternating both buttons. It gets rather easy once you are used to it, so you may consider learning it immediately instead of 4 hit if you prefer. Finally, let's move on to the fastest 5 hit method. If you're coming from 4 hit, you simply have to turn during the 5th hit, but at the right time. My cue is when Sekiro's right foot touches the ground during the animation. If Geni parries, then you turn too early. If the hit misses, or if he starts an attack, you either turn too late or not enough. For the Deathblow, the safest way when doing 4 hit is to reposition slightly before taking it, as Geni can sometimes get taken out of the door and ruin your fight. After the Deathblow, reposition and resume your combo. If you are using 105 hit, he is very unlikely to have moved, and it is 99% safe to take the Deathblow immediately. If you are confident, you can also dead angle the final hit to take the Deathblow faster. Let's talk about the only move Geni can do during this cheese, the arrows. He will only do this move if his posture bar is above 30%. I'll leave a video by home in the description for more information. If he does do his arrows, attacks 4 and 5 will naturally cancel it. If you're not on one of these two numbers, I advise dashing to him and avoiding them. For advanced strategies, starting with all memories unrestricted, you can decide to take your Echo immediately and do the wall fight using block 180s. This is quite hard, but if you master it, it will greatly improve your fight. Glitchless players with no objects can also use so-called Walk My Geni, which consists in a series of block 180s to push him to the door. Once again, this strat is very hard and will only save you about 5 to 6 seconds. Third phase is once again dependent on your category, so I'll mention the opener for each one before detailing the proper reactions to each pattern, which is common everywhere. If you're using Echo, use it immediately after the cutscene and order your direction to the back to avoid the thrust. Do not lock in yet, as this will prevent you from turning. In theory, as for the Yash, he should never hit you, but it did happen to me before, so I advise taking a single step before starting to spam him. You can also use this slightly faster setup with a dash to the left, followed by a hit. For Yash, the process is the same, but you simply turn away before locking on and starting to hit. In categories that have access to Mikiri, you can Mikiri the first thrust and use your cord to bait the second one. I personally really like using it in all memories unrestricted. Now I prefer showing you a full P3 to demonstrate how vulnerable Geni is to spam. You only need to stop hitting when you need to parry and attack, or when he goes for a hyper armor move. We'll talk about lighting later, but I got one in this fight. He's also vulnerable to block 180s. I will now show you the best reactions, to my knowledge, for every move, sometimes prioritizing easier ones if advanced methods aren't significantly better. For the thrust, simply dodge through it at the same timing as if you had Mikiri. The iframe window is more than enough. For the sweep, cancel it before it even starts. To do this, you'll see Geni try to get around you. Give your camera half a second to reposition and hit to stop it. If Geni jumps, his follow-up is non-predictable and often slow. It is preferable to dash behind him before hitting. If you wish to be optimal, you can prolongate it with a few dead angles. Floating passages a move you should never see since you can interrupt it by being aggressive. However, here's the best answer for it. Parry the first 2 moves, do 1 attack while he's turning, parry 2 more moves before dashing through the third. In the version without the turn, simply dash through the third attack. For lightning, you'll want to send them back. It is your main source of damage. The game's tutorial is very unclear, but you only have to jump and attack. Trying to parry it before sending it back has absolutely no effect. You can use the stun and extend it by doing your 3rd hit to the right, 4th to the left, and if you turn late enough on the 5th, you'll even get a 3rd 3 dead angle. On bow lightning only, there's a technique known as fast sliding, way faster and quite easy to get if you are aggressive. Count 2 hits at the start of the animation, then dash back and jump forward and hit, all buffered. If you wish to optimize it further, you can delay your attack a bit so that Genichiro also gets hit by your sword. Finally, if you have shurikens, they deal massive damage to airborne enemies. Try to use them if Geni does lightning before countering it. Of course, it is worth more than sword lightning, as bow lightning benefits more from fast lightning. I'd like to finish with a small tip for console players, or people wondering why so many runners are still using this age-old method that doesn't save time anymore on PC. Doing 6 hits after the pop-up into a wall jump often allows the cutscene to play faster. The black screen charging time used to count in the old timing method, and still does on console. You now know everything there is to know about Ashina Castle and Genichiro. I'll see you in the next one.